So we were discussing with Mindy. We'll have the candidate come in.
Okay.
We're going to explain the process, which is them to kind of give a summary.
Just like a summary of their
Summary of their experience.
education experience.
And then we're going to do the questions from here, round robin.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Do you want to?
right, yeah, I'm gonna sign that now. So
Okay.
as soon as I find my pen. I think I threw one. No, I'm just gonna go for Stephen across if that's okay. So
Yeah, that's
Stephen,
Yeah.
you're number one.
So governance, authority, and professional judgment. Okay.
I'm number two.
But do you mean 1A, 1B?
Just answer the whole, or ask
He's
the
gonna ask all
whole
those.
set.
All of number
Okay.
one. Yeah, all number one.
Okay.
I'm all of number two.
Okay.
Mindy, you're all of number three.
Yep.
Bob, you're all of number four. How many do we have?
Okay, so
Stephen,
Go
you're
back to
number,
Stephen.
you're number five.
Okay.
I'm number six.
oh, I got the wrong one.
Mindy's number seven.
Number 8.
Oh, Bob, you get these.
Steve Senior's number eight. Bob's got the closing questions. Does anybody else have any other concerns or questions?
I have like a very rough draft of additional questions that I didn't finish parsing with these questions. So I don't know what, if any, really.
If you have them, we will,
I realize.
Bob, don't call them final questions, just ask. After Bob asks number 8,
Mhm.
then you can go through your questions.
If I have any, and I know
Okay.
I have to,
Right.
it has to be ones that I would ask about.
Right.
I'm aware,
Yep.
but I'm not even sure that there's any on this list that
Okay.
I have to have.
Got some pretty extensive questions.
Right. So
And-
I don't know that there's anything that wouldn't be
And
covered.
Mindy and myself were talking, Mindy, maybe you can address it just so it's, the second candidate has a second job listed on their resume as if it's still active. So I guess my question is that a concern with council? I think it is with me.
I think we just asked for clarification.
Right, so if you can ask that, Mindy, that additional question, I will leave that in your hands.
Yeah.
Is this where she has on there present twice? The job was from X to present
Mm-hmm.
both
Yeah,
times?
yeah.
Okay, sorry. So if you're ready, I can grab her. Just make sure you ask the same question of each candidate.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask them all.
We're gonna stick pretty close to
So,
what we have here.
Okay.
do we do the pledge?
Yeah, I have my list to ask right here.
No,
Yeah.
we usually don't.
Wait a minute. That's-
Dale, are you gonna get her or am
I'll
I?
get her.
I'd bring her in this way, that way she doesn't have to go behind council.
Oh, all right. Ooh, fancy. I'll close this door.
Well, that's just awkward.
Yeah, it is awkward.
Work on, right? We're gonna be on.
We are.
Thanks for being here, Steve. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah. Committed. Extensive portion of my life.
He's just here for you, Kim.
Make sure my son
No promises.
Kids, right? You don't know.
Oh, I see. 2 and 7. Okay.
Now they have that.
Hello.
Morning.
This is off to camera quick.
Thank you very much.
I feel like
Thank
hot
you for
seat.
having me. Yes, I'm in the hot seat.
Camera, are we all set?
We are all set.
We're gonna call the, special meeting of the Almont Village Council for Clerk Treasurer interviews to order 11:05 on Saturday, January 8th at the Almont Village Hall. This meeting is to interview candidates for our currently open Clerk Treasurer position. So welcome, is it Randy? Is that the?
It is Randy, yes.
Ms. Listerman. So the format of today is we'll go around, everybody will introduce themselves, so you have an idea of who we are. Then we're gonna ask you to give us a quick summary of some of your experience, and then we have a set of questions, interview questions for you.
Great.
So, Stephen, if you wanna start your introduction.
I'm Steven Schneider. I've served one term previously. This is my second term I'm serving. Took a little break in between. Yeah, I'm not sure what else we really need to cover. Is there anything else you wanted to? Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Tim Dyke. I'm the current village president. I just took over last year when Steve Snyder Sr. over there retired after 28 years or 26 years of continued service in the village. 29 and a half. He still serves on two boards within the village. And I've been on council since 1998.
I'm Mindy Steffler, currently the president pro tem as of the past year, and I've been on council for a total of about 10 years.
Morning. My name is Bob Miller. This is my first term on the council, but a long-time resident of Michigan. And I also serve on the Planning Commission.
So at this time, if you would like to introduce yourself and give us a small summary
Sure.
of some of your experience.
My name is Randy Listerman. In 2007, I began my career in municipal service working for the village of Dryden as their treasurer. And there was another gal that was the clerk. They had not had in-office service for a long period of time. Their accounting service was down in Romeo. So the village council hired me because I had a strong accounting and bookkeeping background. I do not have a degree, but I had worked in that career for many years. So we brought all the bookkeeping in-house, worked there for 10 years. When there was a change in the council, I was unappointed. So then I came over here for a period of time. It's like 3 months while I was looking for a full-time position to work for Roberta in the township. So I was her deputy. She was missing a deputy. I said, I'd be glad to come work for you, but I'm looking for full-time, which I had been with Dryden for a little time before that. So I stayed with her for 3 months and then acquired the position for the village of Pentwater. That was in 2017 and have been over there ever since. I retired officially January 2nd. About a year ago, our two daughters live here in the state. Our son is down in Florida, and the two grandchildren were here, and we were missing a lot of opportunities with them. It's a 3.5-hour drive. We have a room in our daughter's basement. So we were coming back and forth frequently. So they asked as I got closer to the time that I could return that we would come back to Lapeer County. So we found a house in September, purchased that house, and I let the council know that I would be retiring and went through this process. We've been renovating that house. We moved in permanently on the 19th of December. So Kim and I have worked together. One of my goals when I left Dryden is I had been asked to serve on the board of directors for the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association. The township clerk at the time in Dryden had come to me early on in my career and said, you want to start going to the trainings over there as a treasurer, and that grew my professional life. At that point, it takes about 13 years to go through all the positions on the board. I was vice president, so I was looking for a community that would want to and be able to support me going all the way through my presidency. So my presidency happened to happen in 2020, and so COVID occurred, so the board had to quickly find a way to keep our training going. And we started a lot of online training and doing a monthly program. So I've had a lot of contact with Kim over the years at the different events. So I ended up serving for 2 years because as the COVID issue went on, the board agreed that we'd all stay in our position for 2 years. Then I served as past president. So my career, they asked me on the board because I was a village treasurer and they didn't have a lot of representation in the state for villages. So the last few years, I've done a lot of trainings. When we do panels, we'll have a representation of a treasurer from all those locations. And I always served for the village representation. So I did a lot of trainings on village treasurer. So in Dryden, the last year and a half that I worked there, the gal that served with me as the clerk for many years, we taught ourselves through trainings how to segregate the duties with 2 people in the office and using at that time, there's no manager, so they've used the village president to be our third signer and do all our double checks. I think you guys still use Ryan King for an auditor, but Ryan King came to us as an auditor, so I worked with him early on in his career. 10 years I did audits with him. He put in bids 3 times over in Pentwater, but the travel distance didn't work for their company, but had a great relationship with him. And anyways, so that's where my municipal career went. So, we loved Pentwater, loved the area, told our daughters a few years into it when we bought a house that we were not leaving. And then, family comes first, so that changed. So that's why I'm back here. So I knew that I wasn't done with my work career. I just didn't know what that was going to be. So with Kim changing her work position and that opening, I thought, well, I believe I have the background to do the position. So I put my name in the hat to see what would happen. So that's where we're at. So, and I talk fast. I apologize. I try to talk slower. It doesn't work.
One follow-up question. You mentioned retirement from Pentwater. And now you're back in the workforce. Do you have an estimation of how much longer you want to be in the workforce?
I have come from a community where our median age, and if you know the village of Pentwater and Pentwater at all, it's a tourist town, but it has a lot of retirees. Its median age is 66. And so my husband and I were considered young people around them. They're all in their 80s, very active. So I'm active, I'm alert. I have no real timeline of when I would be done. I would definitely serve for some time because I know how hard it is to have this position change frequently on the council. So and we're here to stay. We spent a year looking for a house. Our daughter and her husband are right in the subdivision outside of where we're at. We tried to get in their sub for a long time. We're right outside of it. If you know the north side of Mayfield Township, we're on Sawdust Corners on acreage. We don't have any intention of leaving the area. This is where we built our house in Dryden and lived there for 28 years. So two of our children graduated from Almont, and then one went back to Dryden. She started in Dryden and went over to Almont in her high school year. So for her senior year, she went back. So I don't plan on leaving. So. You're welcome.
All right. Randy, can you tell me about a time that you disagreed with a supervisor, council, or a board decision and how you handled it?
Well, if it's with the council, it's never a disagreement. There may be a point as the clerk side of it that you might want to give advice to a way the meeting is controlled or something that's involving ordinances and or the procedure for Open Meetings Act. As far as like the manager, I've always had good working relationships in Pentwater with my managers. And the one that I worked with the longest, when I had a difference of opinion, we agreed that we had a difference of opinion, but I was there to support him because the position, and I believe I read it the same way in your charter because you guys are home rule and I always served under the general law, but the ordinance to have that position be a dual is that you're, under the supervision of the village manager, but you both answer to the village council in the manager format. So I just, we'll work through it. And as any person in business, you want to always hear both sides and try to come to the best resolution. But of course, we're guided by the state statutes and our own ordinances and charter. So to follow within that, and you might have to refer to your municipal attorney if if there's something of a grave issue, so.
So how would you approach a situation where elected officials want something done that conflicts with your professional recommendation?
Well, I've always said it at all of my interviews, if you don't want someone with honesty, integrity, then don't ask me to do the position. I told that to Pentwater when I was hired there, and it just came up when they were very nice when I left. They gave me a wonderful retirement party, and that was written about in the paper, but that was the head of the personnel committee that served on the council for like 34 years. He told me that's what impressed him the most at my interview, that I said that right up front, that, and I had been asked at one time that we shared offices for a while with the township, and during one of the elections, a council member came to me and asked me if I would give him absentee ballots to take to the nursing home. And I said, first of all, I am not the election official, because that's done under the township. You'll have to go to that clerk, but also that's illegal to be doing that. And I'm honest, so just tell them what I feel and within the law. So.
Can you describe a time where you were required to follow a decision or a policy that you didn't agree with, and what the outcome was of that situation?
Well, I mean, you could Google my name and I show up in the paper. So way back in Dryden, probably what was my time of tenure ending is we were the first place to have a dispensary of medical marijuana, which they were taking outside of the law. So that didn't make that president very happy when I had commentary, and that never would be in a public meeting, because at that time I was only the treasurer. That's not my place to speak in that manner in front of council unless they ask me for an opinion. But that would be one of the reasons. So I am honest, but again, it's statute. I won't break the law, not follow a statute. So.
How do you balance offering professional advice while respecting the authority of council and the village president?
Well, we all have our role in government, and I think I understand that pretty well. So again, I always said I work for 7 council members, but it's collectively as a whole. But I also have an older style. I have no problem being an administrative assistant. A council member comes to me for something. Obviously, I don't mind serving in that way as long as it's in the right role. So if it's something that they should be going to the manager about or something, I would do that as well. But, when you're doing the head of clerk treasurer, you have a lot of responsibility to keep everybody in order.
Certainly,
So.
yes. Okay.
Which that comment was made by Dale the other day when he had to change my time. I should have checked with Kim first. So.
All right.
These questions are related to collaboration and working in relationships. Tell us about a time when you worked effectively under pressure. What specifically did you do, and what was the specific outcome?
Well, just getting a council packet some days under pressure can be. I don't know. Pentwater, we had a real hard time with the timelines, and there's places that because I was told to get it out by noon on Wednesday, but someone would always want to amend the agenda, which is always the extra work on the clerk. So you do it with a smile if it's what you're told to do. Otherwise, I've drawn a blank here a little bit. We've worked on a lot of different projects as far as getting, we never got some things that I wanted done because council, either we didn't have the budget for it in my tenures at my different communities, or just the timeline didn't work. But getting the charter updated and getting the ordinances updated was something that I would have liked to have done. The website, of course, where I came from, didn't have the authority to change it. So I look at your website, it's so clean and crisp. So those are things, but you work with what you have and make the best of it, so. That's
Can you describe your role on a team when opinions strongly differ?
I like to just be the mediator and listen to both sides, and we try to, is what you should do in government. We try to come to a resolution that's serving our community because it's about our constituents and taxpayers. We're supposed to be good stewards of the funds, so it's not productive if we don't get to a good ending.
This is a good one because our board kind of has a expanding variance of experience. So how do you work with elected officials who have different personalities, priorities, or levels of municipal experiences?
Well, I'll go to the last part first. If they don't have the level of experience, I think it's a good point that the clerks make sure that they get that experience. Usually you want to guide, and council, I would assume, has set aside a budget to send them off to the Open Meetings Act and give them that also in creating a folder for them, binder, that gives them those tools to work with as they're being trained. Someone that has a lot of experience, you need to respect that, especially if I were to be your candidate that you hire. I don't have all the background that you guys have been working on for many years of the different projects in Elmont. Especially, I come from this area and lived here for a long time, but I've been away for 8 years. And even though I keep on different social sites so I can be aware because my children live here, you're not aware. So you have to lean to that for the experienced council member. Give them their due respect, so.
Can you tell us about a time you had to repair a strained working relationship?
There's several tools that you can use that we do a lot of training on in the MMTA. So trying to lean back into those tools. How can we step back and do team building again? Sometimes it's more like taking a break together, having a lunch together, that we can rebuild the team and listen to what is going on and try to work that out. You have to find out what their strengths are. Usually there's an underlying cause of why they have, a wall up with you, and find that and then try to come to resolution.
What does a good team member mean to you in a small town environment?
First of all, I always tell my staff that we are here to serve. So you go to the counter or the window to work with a resident, there should be no preconceived notions. You're there to serve them. How can you help them? And so as a team member, we need to be united in that service. And then we also need to be you have to wear multiple hats. So just because someone is considered the utility billing clerk doesn't mean she doesn't need the other person to step in because her workload is heavy that day, so that the production is there and we get the work done. So
If you take this position, what do you think will be the hardest part of your job and the easiest part of your job?
the hardest part, I think, will be learning all of your history so that I can serve you to the best of my ability. I think the easy part is the fact that I've been doing this for so long. I have a sense of what the process is, but I don't know your processes and what your history and maybe everything that you are currently working on. I did read minutes on the website and try to get familiar, but I think that would be my issue. So
I have one side question that just came to my mind. Our processes. So you've got multiple years and multiple jurisdictions of experience. So when you step in and start learning the ropes, if you can see our processes, do you still think you'll have an open mind that if you see something that could be changed for the better, that you would bring that kind of recommendations back to us?
always, and I don't expect much to happen that way with Kim and I, because I know her background, but this is a job that we're always learning because statutes change, the environment politically changes, so we have to move with that, and our community changes. So it's never set in stone. It's not perfect. We have to constantly be ready for that change.
And my last question is, how do you handle wearing many hats in a position where priorities can change quickly? And we know that's a real fact in village government. small town village government.
I think that's why I like doing this job so much, and I interviewed for the city of Alpena before I went to Pentwater, but actually love being in the smaller villages. I like having the staff where you really get to know each other well and you're working with the council, so I don't have an issue with it, so.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mindy.
Okay, over to me. I have some questions on conflict resolution and communication. Walk us through a conflict you had with a coworker or supervisor and how it was resolved.
I think there's some minor ones and then there was a nitty gritty. I had an issue in Pentwater with someone that was taking confidential information out of the office. Now, those employees are not my direct employees. I'm supervising them. So we had to take that to the village manager. We had to take that to the attorney that worked through that issue and how they wanted to handle it. Whatever the outcome is, that's something that I just have to rise above and then work with that person every day. So to me, you get a clean slate every day. I don't forget what happened, but I'm going to treat you with respect and we're going to move on. Sometimes it's a union employee. So if you have to deal with a grievance with them, it's business is what I say. It's business and you can't take it personal. So.
How do you handle conflict when emotions are high or meetings become tense?
Well, the meetings become tense. We're the clerk that's recording the meeting, so we're not going to get involved in anything that goes on between councils. I've been blessed to work with councils that have worked well together. They may have had disagreements, but they do it very professionally. I believe that yours, the similar council. So otherwise, if it's within the local, again, level of something, it's professional. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree and walk away and then clean the slate and move forward and find that resolution. So is that a good enough answer?
Maybe as a follow-up, maybe instead of, emotions are high with a council member, what about a member of the public coming in? Have you had that experience?
Of course, yes.
Sure.
In fact, I am told that I work pretty well with the public, and I've had some of the most difficult public members change their tune as I've worked with them and showed them the honesty and transparency as part of the job and explaining maybe the reason why council is done what they've done, and there's some background there. If you give them the information, they usually digest it and come back with a different attitude. So.
Do you have a specific story you can tell us about that?
I had a couple. I had one gal, and she's passed away now, but in Dryden, that just came in with a chip in her shoulder all the time. And she ended up being the sweetest person that would bring us stuff to the office and thank us just because we took the time and respected her at the window when she had a question or an issue. We've had additional issues in Pentwater because we, like the Village of Almont, have our police department right there. And we've had issues where it might be someone that's having a domestic violence issue or that kind of thing. Our police department is not as separated as yours, so the front window would get those public members at times. So just knowing how to de-escalate. I always told my staff when we had the constitutional group come, the way our office was set up, if you felt uncomfortable, just shut down your computer screen and walk away. You're not having to be responsible here to deal with that kind of a public member and those issues. So that's how I've dealt with it.
Describe a time you had to deliver information that was unpopular or unwelcome.
Oh gosh, which one? Unpopular might be the utility rate increase.
We know a little bit about that.
So then you try to give them the financial facts of why we've had to do that increase. So, but be an understanding because everybody has different walks of life, different budgets, so you can sympathize with them and give them tools for how they may be able to handle that issue. Because we tend to be in a small community, sometimes we have to know what those tools are and how to guide them to that location.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Listerman.
Morning.
So the questions I have are regarding feedback, accountability, and adaptability. All right. Tell me about feedback you received that you didn't agree with and what you did do.
Well, this is kind of, I don't know if this is an appropriate thing to say, but in Pentwater, during the COVID season, I was walking down Main Street without a mask on, and then a council member had an issue with that, and they brought that up in my review. So I apologized to her, but I respect her opinion, but I was outside. It was my choice not to have a mask on, and I was on my own time. So but the point of it is that I'm a public official. So even though I might be out in the public on my personal time, people are watching you, and you don't know how they're going to perceive what you do. So you have to be aware of that. So.
Describe a time you had to change your approach after realizing something wasn't working.
When my love is treasury and clerking is both there, and especially when you're doing the dual position, you end up doing both sides of the finances one way or the other. But when something with the finances, if something doesn't work right, you step back, you find another approach, because there's always multiple ways of completing a task. So it's like finding that other way so that you can get the answer that you need to have done. And timelines, I'm very big on my timelines and if someone gives me a time that it needs to be done by, I'm going to work really hard to make that timeline. I don't like to miss those times. So.
How do you ensure accountability both for yourself and others without creating friction?
I think if it's the others are your staff, it's explaining to them that our dollars come from the taxpayers. We're paid by them. And so we're there to serve them. So we need to be accountable for like the time that it takes for us to complete a task, how we do it, that we're good stewards with the taxpayer dollars. This would be the only community, if I was hired to work for you, that I didn't actually live in, because I've always lived 2 blocks away, and I would say I'm a taxpayer here too. I can say I'm a taxpayer in the county, but I just purchased a house, so I won't be living right here in the village. But I just think it's very important that you're very transparent. Like if they documents regarding the budget and everything are always online, they can see what is needed if it's a financial issue. Making sure like you have all your ordinances online so they can look up for themselves and digest that information. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned your background strength is treasury a couple of times now. And obviously you can do the clerking side because you've done it at 2 different places. Can you kind of give us your opinion on how strong your clerking skills are, since your background is treasury, and what kind of training you took to provide to bring your clerking skills up to?
So, and I realized I didn't write that on my resume, but I did go through the Institute for Clerking early on in Pentwater. I did not attend regularly to all their trainings because frankly, right now, the Michigan Clerks Institute is very heavy on elections, and the villages lost their ability to do elections in 2009. So we did the elections in 2007, and I was serving on the board of directors, which required me to be at more of the MMTA trainings, and I didn't want to be out of the office more than necessary. When you're a small office, they can't afford that.
Right.
So, but I can do both. Obviously, we did 2 meetings a month in the last couple of years, but prior to that, the village of Pentwater, under the past council, there was a change in presidency in 2024. They were investigating becoming a city. It's come up more than once, not by population, but by the dollar amount that they have, because we have Lake Michigan home frontage that puts that in that case. So that with the new, they voted to have a vote of the people They spent a year on that whole process and I was part of it. So as a clerk, I'm familiar. The only thing that we were waiting on was updating charter and ordinance for the fact that they said as a council, let's go ahead and let the people vote and then we'll know. Well, from that point, you have to have a commission and it's going to be 3 to 5 years and it's been on a holding pattern for a year. So you're welcome.
Stephen, I think we're back to you.
Yep. Which pivots well from where we just left. Maybe asking some questions about clerk responsibilities. So, can you describe your experience with council meetings, agendas, packets, and the minutes, please?
So I am the sole person that did the minutes, the packets, and the agendas for Pentwater for the 8 years. So I've been doing that consistently. I might have had staff do a couple of the months in March when I had to do my clerk's training, because they always fell. We did Monday council meetings, so I was always in Basic Institute for those years. Otherwise, I planned my life around council meetings that I was not off very often. So that's important. And it takes all month to prepare. When you're doing the bi-weeklies, then it's the couple weeks at a time. Ours were a little different. We decided to do, as our agendas got larger, the second week of the month that we did meetings wasn't as much action items as it was the different council members discussing what they were on in committees, so that we didn't do so many committee meetings at night. You guys are home rule. I didn't see that you have a lot of committees like we had to in ours. So
We have ad hoc committees as necessary, but
yeah, they were heavy on the service side because we were in a big water project, those kinds of things. But I've, handled all of the committees' agendas as well. What might be different here, and was question I was going to have was, does the DDA manage itself, and does the Planning Commission and Zoning have some that does the recording? Does other staff relieve Kim from some of the night meetings, or how that goes? So, or is Kim doing all the night meetings?
Except for DDA.
except for DDA. DDA does manage itself, but Planning Commission and ZBA, correct, our clerk treasurer usually attends those meetings and handles those meeting minutes and their agendas and their agenda packets. Yes, the DDA does do all of theirs on their own, though.
So we had I had the last few years to lighten my load. The deputy was doing the Planning Commission, and our ZBA didn't meet that often, but would work alongside the zoning official for that. I couldn't see if you had a zoning official on staff or not. That was going to be my other question.
Our zoning official is essentially our village manager, so
Okay.
that's who's designated for it. But it pretty much equivalent. Our ZBA does not meet very frequently. They meet as needed, so it's only usually a few times a year at this point. Can you describe your experience with record keeping, filing systems, or document management?
So the one question I drew a blank on was who creates the retention record for clerks, because I have one big one, but we have the treasurer. So I wrote that. I don't remember the name of where it comes from in the state, but I follow that. So keeping those records accordingly. And we had a good space in Pentwater, so sometimes we might keep some things longer than is needed. But it's always good to purge what you can, because it helps with FOIAs, because I've been in some FOIA requests and it's really nice to say that those records are gone because the retention period is there. So
Sure, that can certainly speed things up. How do you ensure compliance with the OMA?
just making sure that we're noticing the meetings properly, and keeping that transparency there. We didn't put our minutes in the local paper anymore. No one had an issue with it because our community was very tech savvy, so the website was like the key. So we kept everything on the website, and we put the entire packet. I never didn't, except if it was exclusive information for council only, but the majority of the packet went on there. So when you go back to how the community received me over time, I had 2 community members. They were in a major road project in Pentwater when I arrived. It was 4-year phase that they took public voted bond for it, millage that paid the bond. And these two members were civil engineers that had worked on the road project. So they sat in all the meetings, and they never got their financial records on time prior to my being their clerk treasurer. After about 6 months of them attending the meetings regularly, they would come visit me in the office and go over the budget. They would want to know questions that they had, which was wonderful. I, show them what was on BS&A, but they stopped coming, and they used to tell me I didn't have to because you put it on the website. So if I had a question, I just call you on the phone. So I thought that, and I think Kim does the same kind of thing. We all work very similar, so.
What steps do you take to maintain accurate and defensible public records?
Well, I always make sure that I get my minutes done right away in the timeline so that they're there and everything. I was on a binder system, so like the year that we were working on, everything had a binder, and then it was easy to pull those records. As far as the financial reports, we had payroll binders, we had minute binders, a resolution binder, so they could find everything really easily, and then keeping the electronic version up of the shared docs, getting all that on there right away. So.
Okay. You touched on this a little bit, but let's dive a little bit deeper into it. So how do you handle FOIA requests, especially the very complex or sensitive ones?
Well, sometimes you can review that FOIA request first of all and see what are they actually asking. You don't give more than what's requested. If the request is not clear, you're asking for them to, you're going to go through the process and deny and give the reason why. You may have to work with your village attorney, depending what it is. For a time in Pentwater, I was the lien certified person that handled the ones for the police department. As we got busier there, then we made my deputy lien person, and I would maybe oversee, but I released some of that so I didn't have to do all the police department, because we had a fatality that happened right in town of a loved community member that was quite a messy court case. So with that, those types of FOIAs have a lot of sensitivity. We did go and do the training for how to handle a police FOIA versus just a regular public FOIA too. So there's lots of rules for that.
Okay. So, as I'm sure you're aware, this role will require attendance at frequent evening meetings or occasional after-hours work. Is that going to be manageable for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. President Dyke.
The other side of the table, these questions are in regards to treasurer responsibilities. So
Okay.
we're expecting a high score here since
Okay.
you built yourself
I
up.
better not fail.
Can you describe your experience with municipal budgeting, accounting, or financial reporting?
So in Dryden, we didn't have anybody to help us. So then I was the sole person that went through, and what we always did is look at the historical of what was going to happen the previous year, what's the request for council, the needs for the Department of Public Works and the staff, and then combine that together. In Pentwater, we had two columns. The village manager would put in a column of what he saw, and then I'd put in what I saw. We worked with the different departments to come with a budget together. We also worked with the finance committee in Pentwater, so then we met quarterly with them, let them know where we were in the budget, that we would be the village manager and myself. And, if we were going to have to do any amendments. And also, we worked with them before we presented that. So we were April 1st fiscal year beginning. So in February, we like to have a draft to the council and let them digest it. And then we did a dual meeting, a council meeting that was the budget hearing, all at the same time in March. Of course, then I think yours is the same timeline. You can't really make you get the best taxable revenue that you think you're going to have based on what the township the assessor tells you, and then you might have to adjust in June for your millages, so.
If granted the position, obviously it's January 10th today, and you're gonna have to step in and try and learn the ropes, and budget season is right around the corner. So what would be your planning of adaptability for that?
Well, if it takes extra time in the office, it will, to review that. You actually have less funds. I looked at all that during the night last night. I was up preparing again, and I said, wow, do you have less funds on the website? Or because I had 15 funds. So I actually think that you have it a little bit easier laid out. So I don't think it'll be hard. I mean, I know the account numbers, I know the fund numbers. So, and then wherever Dale is at with where you are preparing now, the mechanics of putting it in BS&A, if that's not his strength, and that's an area, that's what I did. I did all the reporting, putting it in BS&A and Outwater, so it won't be a problem.
It's not my strength.
No, I have no problem supporting you on that. I'll tell you a little background story about me, that I didn't play with dolls when I was little. I had this thing about offices and banks and finances. So my mom, like when I was 8, she bought me stamps and a stamp pad, and I used to have the van in the driveway, and we had courts because I was in St. Clair Shores, and the kids would come line up, and I'd roll the way downtown. So I said, all the years later, and I end up in municipal government. I worked for my brother. He had an accounting firm. He said to me, "Did I not train you at all that you went into fund accounting?" I love it. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you ensure accuracy in internal controls in small government setting?
So double checks, if one staff member is running a deposit, then you've got to review it. I had the 2 staff members as well. For a time, they called them both deputy clerk treasurers, so I had to segregate who was doing what, but we also had to know each other's jobs to step in. So it's just working through that. And then, when you're doing your bank reconciliations on time at the beginning of the month, so that you can catch a lot of errors if they're happening in the bank rec too, so.
Can you tell us about your experience, and you touched on this a little bit, but can you tell us your experience with audits and working with external auditors?
Great experience with them. Again, Ryan King, when he started with with Dryden, he was working for Metamora, and the clerk that I worked with knew the treasurer there, and she sent him to us. And so we worked under his dad's company until he split off. So I spent 10 years with him. And he was the one that started us on binder systems. And my nephew is a municipal auditor up in the Traverse City area. So we talk audits when we're together. And again, he said, I wish we could keep all small villages with the paperwork in order as you do. So have had exemplary audits where there was an issue. We always addressed it as a council of how we could segregate the duties better, make any adjustments so that there's a clean record for the public and for the state. So that's important.
How do you handle financial decisions when there are competing priorities and or limited resources?
Financial decisions meaning on what level? Like, are you talking within the budget or just?
Yes.
Okay. So like if it's within the budget for my department, it's going to be what council laid out as a budget. If there's an expenditure like purchasing new computers or something, you're going to be planning that with the manager and planning with council in advance. So the every day to day, you should be pretty aware of what the budget would be going into it. And if you can see that there's going to be an issue, you want to bring that to the manager and the council right away so that it's not after the fact.
Back to me, I've got some about ethics, professionalism, and public service. How do you maintain professionalism when dealing with difficult residents or public criticism?
So we will always sympathize with them, say, I'm sorry you feel that way, with a smile, and listen. Because you can't solve a conflict if you don't listen to what their issue is first, and try to place yourself in their shoes of where they're coming from, why they're upset. So,
Describe a time when you had to uphold policy or law despite pressure to do otherwise.
refer back to the one issue on, although I had no control over it, we were not able to handle elections, but to be honest and straightforward that is not in the statutes, not in the ordinance, and I'm uncomfortable proceeding in this path with you. So, and just be honest with them, straightforward.
What does ethical leadership mean to you in local government?
It's everything. It's your reputation. It's how you represent your community. The ethics is top and priority. So,
How do you believe that the Village of Elmont can help you reach your career goals?
just allowing me to continue to serve in the public in a position that I love. It's never a chore to go to work in the 20 years that I've been doing this. I love every day. Every day is a new challenge in a village because it changes. I think a lot of communities, if you're in a township, you're one focus, but when you're in the village and you're doing clerk treasury, there's just so much that is happening. It's interesting all day long. So.
Tell us about a time you thought you went above and beyond the call of duty. What was the situation? What did you do? And what was the outcome?
I don't know if it's, want to think of it more on a resident side or just within the office. So if, in the office, if there's just, the buck stops at the clerk treasurer. If there's someone out ill for a long period of time or whatever, you're just going to step in and do what needs to be done. I think when I take that, I'll take that back to Dryden. The clerk left for a year. She didn't know it was going to be a year, but she had a family issue, so I had to do both positions. So then, we were a part-time 28 hours a week. So I worked 56 hours a week to get the job done and make sure that everything was in order, and then worked with the auditor, like, who can I have come in and review these financial records? Because I always say you don't want to be falsely accused of fraud because your reputation is never the same afterwards, even if you were innocent. So you want to make sure there's no reason for that. So.
Our clerk treasurer is exposed to sensitive information. Could you describe the importance of discretion in this position?
Extremely important. So, as I said, there was a member of my staff in my previous position that was giving sensitive information out, and we had to deal with that accordingly. So,
how do you ensure transparency and accountability when managing public funds?
just by being accurate, making sure those records are available for the public to see as needed. And I think when you, the council, as well as a team player in that, when the council and the staff want to make sure that the public knows exactly what's going on, just like today, you're holding this meeting as it should be. This interview is an open meeting. That shows the trust that it gives the public the ability to trust you because you are being so transparent with them. So.
Have you ever faced an ethical dilemma related to finances? And if so, how did you handle it?
I have not I've been on the other end of it where staff falsely accused the previous village manager and myself early in my career to the auditor. They made a report to the auditor. And so when I became aware of it, I told them, I'm an open book, whatever you need to prove that this is a false accusation. It was a disgruntled staff member, so, receiving it how it comes, but on that sense, so, you have to just, again, go back to the ordinance, go back to the charter, go back to the statutory duties, and how do you handle that, so.
How would you respond if a resident questioned how village money was spent?
So again, what is the category that they're looking at? And, they can FOIA. I never required the FOIA as far as we would refer to them, like the whole financial records per month are in our council packet. It's on the website. If you need help deciphering that, please let's schedule a meeting and I'll go through that with you. Because like with BS&A, I love it because you might have a category of operating supplies, but it doesn't tell them what it was. So you can click on it and explain to them what was spent in that category. So I think knowledge is key. And when you give them that knowledge, then they're more satisfied. So
What controls do you believe are essential to prevent misuse of funds?
definitely segregation of duties, multiple eyes on all items, having those double checks, having people sign off on that. I'm very much that everybody should have their own set of passwords. You shouldn't be sharing them so that you can protect yourself from someone committing fraud under your name as well as having that issue. So you're welcome.
Again, some closing questions.
Okay.
What do you hope to accomplish in your first year as clerk treasurer?
I guess I would, I'm not afraid of like the position itself and what the general day-to-day activities might be, would be how can I support the council, learn the history of where you've been and where you want to go with projects, grants, anything like that within the community, getting to know the local members of the community. I've always found that in a village, you have a lot of foot traffic of people coming in to see you at the counter, so you want to get to know them. You want to be part of community events so that they see your face out there as well. So I looked up what your homecoming date was, so I made sure that we're campers. So I was like, make sure that's not on a camping weekend that we had planned. So.
Good. What support or resources would help you succeed in this role?
Supportive counsel and the manager staff, but also the resources would be to keep continuing the training. That training is always important. I think it's important too to make sure that staff gets the appropriate training. Sometimes, depending on budgets, the training may be things that we can do in-house. When the clerk treasurer goes off for training, she learns something, then she has a staff meeting and shares what she learns with the staff to make those education dollars go farther. So,
Do you have any questions for us?
I asked a couple of them during the conversations we were having, so I think you really answered them more. I don't know what timeline you're looking at, and I am currently on what I called a retirement, but I said to my husband, well, that lasted 3 weeks, and 2 of them were the holidays, or maybe more. I don't know. It's what your plan is. So, yeah. So the house is partially unpacked and settled, so whatever happens, I always roll with what life challenges are and work with that. I know that there'll be night meetings then again, and so we'll discuss how often you have that going on. So if I was to be your candidate, so are there big projects that you're working on this year? I saw something for, is it Main Street that's being worked on?
East and West St. Clair, or East St. Clair.
Okay.
You want to give us a summary of a couple of things that are going on, Dale?
Yes, so we do have a few very large projects. We have East and West St. Clair basically complete reconstruction with new water and sewer from city limit to city limit. And then the village wants to build a new DPW facility, so we are at the point where we can begin we know where, we know the size and design, so now we're prepared to move forward with acquiring the land and then bidding out the project. And there's a very large sidewalk project that we're applying grant dollars for, or applying for grant dollars for. And if we receive that, we would receive it in the next year and then build it next year.
So is the St. Clair project part of any grant money from the ARPA?
Well, it's an earmark.
Okay,
And we have a few dollars that we've collected towards the DPW project, but we're looking elsewhere for dollars for that as well, so.
and that's the other thing. That was the only issue when we left Pentwater that I felt a concern for them, because my deputy took my position, and she's a little bit greener. She hadn't been with Pentwater for very long, but we were in a if you know Pentwater at all, I don't know how many know that area south of Ludington. We're on Lake Michigan. Muir State Park is in our village, and there's a channel and it goes into Pentwater Lake. So the village is split between what's on the other side of the lake and the side of Pentwater Lake. So we needed a new well. So we got grant money for the well, and in that process we decided to run some new water lines, but they had to run it under the channel. So it's a 4-phase and 3 financial sources. So there was grant money, bond money. Village of Pentwater had, which was my experience that I gained from them, was we bond ourselves. We had our own bond rating, not under the county. So I've gone out for 5 different bonds in my tenure there. So I have that experience of how to go through the process of the bonds. So I don't know if you guys work with Miller Canfield, but that's who we were with. And our financial advisor was PFM. So they're good reference sources if you wanted to check references on me that way. Professionally too, of how that, because we just sold a bond last June for $1.5 million. One of the council members wanted to add an extra road to that project with water lines. So of course the grant money only allows for the side that the water line was on, not the other side of the road. So we pulled another bond really quickly for that. So so that's why I was asking, because I enjoy all of that part of the work. So
Oh, you had a question about timeline that I don't think that we addressed. So obviously the position is vacant as of Thursday.
Okay.
So my question for you was what you were thinking in terms of if you were offered the position, when you would be available to start.
So I thought about this, if you offered the position, obviously I can come as soon as you need me. If I had a week more at home, it would be great, but are you saying she was done as of last Thursday?
Yes.
So I might not have that. So then I won't necessarily have Kim's time to go over anything? Is that the case?
All the way.
All right.
Informally, but yes,
Okay.
Kim is now done. But I think, speaking just for myself, and hopefully council would agree, that we would be accommodating if you needed a little time
Yeah.
to get settled.
It would be more on a personal level, because I have never had this 3 weeks off in a row before, and I was enjoying it. So we bought a house that had to be renovated. So we bought it early September, but we spent the 4 months driving back and forth on the weekends. So it's a 3.5-hour trip each way, and working like crazy and then going back. So it's been a busy 4 months, So, and we never intended to leave Pentwater. So we acquired a boat, a golf cart, and a new camper, and all those transitions had to occur. So it's been busy, but I'm used to busy life, so that's okay.
Other questions for us?
No, I think you've answered them all. Well, I guess one question, when I looked at your employee compensation, it referred to the MERS defined benefit, but are you on a 401A now? Because I saw that. So is that changed and not updated? Because it was an older document.
Ours is for our union employees.
Okay, gotcha.
And management and office staff are under 401A.
Okay, because I saw that and I was wondering, because the document was older from when they required that by the state. So, all right. Very nice website. I don't know if you manage it, but it's very easy to follow. So, and is that the new one? Because in the minutes you refer to the new one. I love it. So,
Anybody else from council have any additional questions?
Just a few. You'd mentioned having both township and village experience. What do you see as the key differences in serving between township clerk treasurer versus village clerk treasurer in those positions? What do you see as the key differences between those two types of
They're
municipalities?
elected officials, so their accountability is different. Depending on your township, you may not find that person in the office. Depending on the size of that township and their financials, abilities, they may have deputies that really do the work of those positions more than the others are figurehead. So that's the difference, where we're appointed, we're working directly for council, and we're accountable for our time in the office and service to the community. So
you mentioned a lot about the different work you do as a treasurer, but there's ways that we were regularly informed by our previous treasurer. So I guess I would ask, what types of reports did you provide regularly?
So by statute, when I started in Pentwater, I did not know BS&A. So, and things were, we were using QuickBooks in a format in the village of Dryden, because they didn't have the funding, and we brought all that in. So they hired a company to come in, our audit company, to work with me, because I couldn't find $250,000 when I arrived, and I had been there for 3 weeks. And I went to the president and the village manager after hours. I said, we need to talk. I said, I can't figure out the finances. I know I have a shortcoming on BS&A, but I think there's money missing here. I don't know if it's deliberate or just bad record keeping. So they hired him to come in. So with that being said, he said to me, these are by statute, what I want to see in your council packet every month. So I do it every month. And so I teach this in my trainings, that if you're a small community, often council members may not be savvy enough to read your financial statements. So I create an Excel spreadsheet that lists all the financial institutions and what money is in there based on fund. So I just submitted every month, and the disclaimer on the bottom, taught this at MMTA, was taught to me, is just say this is my constitutes my quarterly statement, but they get it monthly. So I do revenue and expenditures, profit and loss, the balance sheet, and the cash summary out of BS&A. Include that Excel spreadsheet, and then on the other side, we print the checks register for payroll and for everything else. I'm thinking you have it in a pooled account. I have like what we pay in a pooled account, so that's all detailed. And
Right.
So it goes, we did a consent agenda where they approved all those things in one fell swoop.
Right, that's the same we do here as well.
Okay.
So, yep, okay. What process improvements or modernization initiatives have you implemented in previous positions?
Well, in Dryden, we basically had to build from the ground up what they had. But again, we were working with a very limited budget, so we did the tools that were available to us. As I went into Pentwater, we grew. If you look back at the minutes, the way they were written at the beginning, some things I couldn't change because they are a very particular community and they liked a certain format, but formats got changed and modified and cleaned up over time. Also processes. I was very much with my staff as like, okay, this day of the month we strive to do payroll. If it's biweekly, get it done by this time, accounts payables this day. So everybody had a routine. Now the routine might have to get varied based on office staff in and out. But if we had that goal, then the work was done on time. And same thing with council packet. You have a folder with various things, and as items come up for the council meeting, you're putting those items in the folder. So when it's the day to go to the manager, the president, what's the agenda going to be? These items are there. And also I got these items in the last 2 weeks that need to be considered for adding. So it's a group effort in that sense. And that's how I would deal with it. So.
Something we deal with regularly for a great number of years here is a bit of discomfort and dislike about our water and sewer rates. Something comes up frequently. So just giving you a hypothetical scenario of a resident becomes confrontational during a public comment time about a utility bill that they believe is incorrect. How would you handle this both during the meeting and after?
During the meeting as the clerk, you're gonna record that time. If you guys, I noticed it says 3 to 5 minutes, so then you're gonna acknowledge to the president, however you would like that to be done, that their time is up. You may be having an officer, if it's the time where rates have been changed and present. Some communities do regularly, some only have when they have a need, if there's gonna be that major confrontation. Obviously, there's a lot of training that we've had on how to be very aware if it's going to get into something that's pretty serious. But then after, I would try to approach them and say, would you like to set an appointment to come into the office so that I can go over the budget and the finances for the water and sewer, why we came up with the rate that we did. And often too, you can explain to them, we just got done doing a rate study in Pentwater, that, the rate study is done. All this data is given to the outside company, and they're guiding us, because it's not just the cost to operate the system, it's the cost of the capital improvement of the system long range. And they don't understand that all the time. So you have to explain to them how much the system costs. I know Pentwater got placed into a biomembrane treatment plant in 2012. It costs almost $1 million to run, and we have a population of 890 that balloons in the summer. That's why they're in a treatment plant, to almost 10,000. So then the plant, we have to have a mixer in the water tower in the winter because it freezes, because everybody goes away because this is their summer resident. So people, those 890 residents get really frustrated when their rates go up so much based on this bell curve that's very hard to rate as it is. So we've gone through that and explaining to them, again, knowledge is key, and you're not going to satisfy everybody. So you cannot take their anger personally.
That is for certain. I think that's all the questions I have. Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions? I have one question. What's your IT skill set?
Pretty good, because in Pentwater, we had IT Right, which is now VC3, oversee our stuff, but sometimes you got to get in the nitty gritty, but had the backup of VC3, which, IT Right was wonderful, VC3. We looked for somebody else, and everybody else in the state did it. You kind of stuck with them. They marry BSNA pretty good, although I don't know if BSNA has grown, and now you can't get them on the phone like you used to. But so, yes, I'm capable. So.
Well, do you have any final statements or questions you have at this point?
I don't. I appreciate all of your time today, and whatever your decision is, I'll be glad to hear back from you either way. And it was, as I told Kim when she sent me an email on Monday that she'd gotten my resume on Friday, and I said, when I left Pentwater, I didn't know what my next position was, but I knew that I wasn't done working. My work life was not over. So I was aware that she was leaving about 2 weeks prior to that. She put it on the listserv, and I almost wanted to call you multiple times, but I thought I'm just going to work through this transition out of Pentwater, and then I would reach out. But I thank you for this opportunity today, and we'll, and the best to Alma if I'm not your candidate. So as you go forward in your project, So, and if you need to call somebody because she's not available just for asking a question, I don't know how your staff is or how long they've been there. I guess that would have been a question I would have asked too. Have your staff been with you for a while? Okay, and that makes it great to have longtime staff. So thank you very much today. So
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Can we adjourn for just a second?
Yeah. We're going to adjourn for 5 minutes if you want to.